Thank you, Dean, and each and every one of you. First of all, the favorite part of my speech, I want to introduce my wife, Claudia, who's right here in front of me. We will soon celebrate our 40th anniversary, and that doesn't seem possible at all. But it's been a wonderful and certainly an interesting 40 years. After your love of humor, I'm a little bit dissuaded to even try. But you may have noticed that the president was recently in Afghanistan. God bless him, and I mean that sincerely. Going over to Afghanistan to visit our troops, and he sat down with the infant Afghan government, and he said, American people's patience is waning a little bit. We in America, and me specifically, think you ought to take a little bit more responsibility for your country. And the Afghans looked back at him and said, how about you go first? That was better. That's better. You still can. You still can. I come today not to make you laugh very much. And most of what I say, I wrap in a speech I title The War on Prosperity. And trust me, those of you that go away thinking you didn't get an adequate serving of red meat, I can serve that up in a different venue. Some of you may think that I pour too much Tabasco on the meat that I'm about to serve you. And to those, I'll apologize, but I'm going to try very hard to actually just give you a state of affairs as I see it. Dean was nice enough to give you a little bit of my background, and I have been around business and jobs and the economy virtually all my life, save a little 4-year respite when I went back to Washington, D.C. And even there, I took my lifetime of experience with me. I had the pleasure of being assigned, first of all, to the Transportation Committee when we were doing the highway bill. My first term was vice chairman of the Highway Subcommittee specific to the Transportation Committee. And then the second term I was on Ways and Means, and I absolutely loved that job because I thought it was closest to the economy. All things revenue go through Ways and Means, and I enjoyed applying what I thought was my practical real-life experience and understanding a little bit about the way the economy works to that job, and was really biggest part of the reason why I thought governor was a job ready-made for me, being that I thought that was an executive management job, but a job that ought to be first and foremost about maintaining, creating, advancing, if you can, the economic opportunities for your state. I got the runner-up trophy for that one, be that as it may, but I have not left behind my interest in politics. Let me tell you a little bit about what I'm doing these days. I have not shaken it. As I said, I get up in the morning. Claudia is threatening to take away my newspapers, my internet, my cable television, my radio, because usually by about 6 a.m. I'm on fire. I've checked the morning headlines, and there's something that disturbs me. I am part of a group called the John Hancock Committee for the States, and it's a little bit of a going back where I was before as a state party chairman. We're going around the country trying to encourage some of these folks that for the first time have come out of their homes and at least what I'm hearing said, if you can excuse the paraphrasing, is you can keep your change. We want our country back, because they're seeing things change pretty doggone fast, and they're nervous about that. But many of them don't know the business of politics, the culture of politics, how you even become effective politically. So we want to help them transition their anger and their anxiety and their frustration to hopefully some success, either as an engaged, involved, enlightened citizen, or maybe some of these, and I'm convinced they will, some of this new generation of concerned citizens will grow up and be the next generation of leaders, city council, school boards, maybe governors, congressmen, president of the United States. We'll see. But here's what I do each morning, and I'm going to share a few of the recent headlines with you all and try to make the point that I think there's reason for all of us, regardless of what your politics might be. I'm guessing everybody in this room qualifies as an American. And I'm guessing most of you are pretty engaged, or you wouldn't be involved in a service organization as great as Rotary. you'd like to do, as Claudia and I have wanted to do, as my folks wanted to do, you want to leave the world, especially America, a little better than it was when you found it. I'm concerned that we're maybe not on a path right now to be able to assure the next generation that that's going to be so. I wake up this morning and I see a new jobless claims is on the rise again, 460,000 last week. Most alarming, worse than expected. I see something that frankly doesn't surprise me, having been on Ways and Means. 47% of all Americans pay no federal income tax. I'm guessing that most of you in this room are not in that 47%. God bless you. But what that tells me is that we've got almost half of the population perfectly happy that somebody else is paying the bill, and most of that half is you all. I submit to you that there is a political strategy to get slightly over half and have a permanent ruling political majority by keeping over half of the population dependent on the largesse of government that somebody else is paying for. Paul Volcker, no one other than Paul Volcker, yesterday said something that Kent Conrad, the Senate Finance Committee, and Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, have both said in recent months, and that's that he thinks we got a problem with this deficit. Duh. And he thinks that the way to resolve that problem is with a value-added tax, something called a VAT, and or a carbon tax, an energy tax. Brace yourselves. I'm here to tell you I didn't believe it the first time, and I certainly don't believe it now. Just because you happen to not be making $250,000 a year, it is going to touch your pocket too. A value-added tax is just that. It puts a tax on everything that you touch. Every time it moves in the economy, there's a tax on it. That's what the Europeans have done. And Paul Volcker didn't say that idly, I submit to you. I think he said that for a specific purpose. We find out in the last few days that GM is going to post a $4.3 billion loss for the second half of 2009. We also find out that their pension fund is, between them and Chrysler, about $17 billion underwater. Congratulations, you and I now are, as taxpayers, we own those companies. Guess who's going to get to fill the pension bucket up when it comes time? We passed a health care bill. I think health care reform is a good idea. I wrote a book called Return to Values. I devote a whole chapter to how we ought to really make some changes in our health care system in the country. I'm not a big fan of what we just did, but it was supposed to reduce cost. And especially, I think that younger population, I see a few in the room that fit into this, the 20 and 30-year-olds, I think had the impression that as P.J. O'Rourke famously said once, you think health care is expensive now? Wait till it's free. Well, the perception's out there that it's free, right? We're getting something for less, if not for nothing. Young people, this is an AP study, young people, because of the mandated cost shifting in this health care bill, young people's premiums are going to go up by an average of 17%, about $500 a year. I guess we don't call that a tax. We call that a premium increase. We call it cost shifting. Call it what you will, but you're going to have $500 less than you had before to get your health insurance premium. And this time you're not going to have a choice to buy it or not because you got the gun of the federal government to your head saying you will purchase a commercial product. In that health care bill, there's a provision that pretends, any doctors in the room? Former doctors? I thought there had to be. Making a ton of money off Medicare, right? A great reimbursement rate. Well, this bill pretends that about a year out, we'll just have a 21% reduction. Now, everybody knows that they're going to come back here as soon as they go back into business next week. They're going to go back and they're going to fix that. But that's about a $300 billion plus or minus dollar cost that wasn't included in this health care bill. CMO says if they actually would hold true to that legislation and not increase that reimbursement rate, as I believe they will, that about, let me just read it to you, roughly 20% of all Medicare providers would go bankrupt in the first 10 years of the legislation. I think that's a concern. What you're going to